The humid air of Manila clung to Elena Reyes like a second skin as she navigated the chaotic streets of Intramuros, her camera bag slung over one shoulder. The year was 2023, and the city pulsed with its usual frenzy. Jeepneys honking, vendors hawking street food, the distant rumble of the Pasig River carrying whispers of forgotten histories. But Elena's mind was elsewhere, lost in the glow of her laptop screen back in her cramped apartment where she'd spent the morning sifting through emails. At 32, she was a freelance photographer whose portfolio brimmed with the raw edges of Philippine culture, the vibrant fiestas of Cebu, the solemn tattoos of the Kalinga warriors, the spectral dances of the Ati-Atihan. Her work had graced the pages of national magazines, but lately the assignments had dried up like the cracked earth of a drought-stricken rice field. She pushed open the door to her favorite coffee shop, a dimly lit hole in the wall called Kapehan Ingbayan, where the aroma of Robusta beans mingled with the faint, salty tang of the sea. Seated at a corner table was her editor, Marco Villanueva, a wiry man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and eyes that always seemed to appraise you like a potential headline. He waved her over, a steaming mug in hand. "Elena, perfect timing," Marco said, his voice cutting through the murmur of patrons. He slid a folder across the scarred wooden table. "I've got something big for you. Or at least, it could be, if you're up for a bit of adventure." She dropped her bag and sat, curiosity piqued. Marco wasn't one for dramatics. His calls usually meant straightforward shoots in the urban sprawl. "Adventure? In this traffic? Lay it on me." He leaned forward, lowering his voice as if the barista might eavesdrop. Cultural Heritage Quarterly. They're commissioning a series on disappearing folklore traditions. Remote villages, the kind that are slipping off the map before we can document them. Think Ifugao Terraces meets urban legend. You photograph, I write the captions. Team effort. Pays well, and it's a 2-month gig if you play it right. Elena's pulse quickened. This was the kind of project that could resurrect her career, a chance to capture the Philippines' soul before it faded into oblivion. Globalization was devouring the old ways, ancient rituals replaced by TikTok dances, ancestral spirits dismissed as superstition. "Where? The Cordilleras? Visayas?" Marco's expression sobered. "Starts with Barangay Malilim, up in the Sierra Madre mountains, northeast of here. A place called the Forgotten Hamlet in some old texts. They're known for these harvest rituals, something called the Piyesta in Malilim. Ancient stuff, predating Spanish colonization, involves offerings to rice deities, trance dances, the works. But it's dying out. The village is isolated, no cell signal, barely a road. Last outsider who went in was an anthropologist in the 90s. He came back changed." Elena flipped open the folder. Glossy prints spilled out, faded maps marking Malilim's jagged location amid mist-shrouded peaks, grainy photos of villagers in woven masks, their faces obscured by shadows that seemed to writhe. A typed brief detailed the rituals, effigies burned under full moons, chants invoking names like Arao ing Ani and something darker, Lalim ing Gubat, the depth of the forest. Her fingers traced the edges, a thrill building in her chest. This wasn't just a shoot. It was a descent into the heart of mystery. "Sounds perfect," she said, meeting Marco's gaze. "When do I leave?" He hesitated, stirring his coffee with unnecessary vigor. "Hold on. It's not all romantic folklore. Malilim's got a reputation. Locals in nearby towns say it's cursed. People go in for the festival and don't come out the same, or at all. There was a hiker last year, vanished during a storm. Search parties found his gear, but
no body. And the rituals? They're not just dances. Involves blood offerings, they say. Human in the old days. Elena laughed, though it came out thinner than intended. Superstitions were her bread and butter. She'd debunked enough ghost stories to know the real horrors were mundane. Poverty, isolation, the slow erosion of identity. Marco, come on. You're sounding like my Lola with her aswang tales. I'll be fine. Jeep to the jump-off point, then a trek. I've done worse in the Taboli Highlands. He sighed, rubbing his temples. Just research it first, and promise me you'll check in when you can. The magazine's footing the bill for gear, but if it feels off, you bail. Malilim's not on any tourist map for a reason. She nodded, pocketing a print of the village. Thatched roofs clinging to a steep hillside, rice paddies terraced like steps to the underworld, and in the distance a forest so dense it swallowed the light. As she left the shop, the folder tucked under her arm, the city's humidity pressed heavier, as if Manila itself were reluctant to let her go.
Back in her apartment, a third-floor walk-up in Binondo, where the walls echoed with the chatter of Chinese Filipino neighbors, Elena spread her research across the dining table. The space was a shrine to her craft, walls lined with framed prints of misty waterfalls and masked shamans, a Nikon D850 gathering dust on its tripod. She brewed a pot of chocolate, the thick chocolate grounding her as she fired up her laptop. Google yielded scraps at first. Malilim mentioned in a 1970s ethnology paper as a repository of pre-colonial animist practices. The harvest festival, the Piyesta in Malilim, occurred every October, coinciding with the full moon. Villagers believed it appeased the Anito, spirits of the land, that demanded tribute for bountiful crops. But deeper dives uncovered the unease Marco had hinted at. A forum post from a backpacker site dated 2018. Hiked to Malilim last year. The people are welcoming, but the rituals, eyes in the woods watching, heard screams at night that weren't animals. Don't go alone. Deleted comments speculated on disappearances, linking to a news clipping about a missing journalist in 2005, his camera found at the village edge, film blank except for one blurred shot of a figure in the trees. Elena's skepticism warred with a growing fascination. She cross-referenced with academic databases, pulling up a digitized thesis from the University of the Philippines. The author, Dr. Isabel Cruz, had visited in 1992. The Piyesta is a liminal event, blurring lines between celebration and sacrifice. Elders speak of the Feast of Malilim as a pact with the forest spirits, where the unworthy are claimed. Modern intrusions disrupt this balance. Outsiders report vivid nightmares, unexplained fevers. A footnote mentioned a legend. Centuries ago, during a famine, the village offered a wayward traveler to the Anito, ensuring eternal prosperity. Since then, the forest guarded its secrets jealously. She leaned back, the room growing dim as evening fell. Outside, the call to prayer from a nearby mosque mingled with the honks of evening traffic, a cacophony that suddenly felt fragile against the wild unknown. Malilim wasn't just remote. It was a pocket of time, preserved by its inaccessibility. No paved roads led there, only a dirt trail from the coastal town of Dingalan, prone to landslides. Power was sporadic, generated by a single diesel unit. And the population? Barely 200 souls, their dialect a mix of Tagalog, Ilocano, and something older, untranslatable. Doubt flickered. What if Marco was right? But no. Fear was the enemy of art. Elena had chased stories into typhoon-lashed islands and rebel-held jungles.
This was no different. She envisioned the shots, golden rice swaying under torchlight, dancers with painted faces contorting in ecstasy, the veil between worlds thinning. It would be her masterpiece. By midnight she was packing. Her backpack swelled with essentials: extra batteries, a solar charger, rain gear, a satellite phone Marco had insisted on, spotty signal be damned. She pored over maps, tracing the route: a bus to Cabanatuan, then a van to Dingalan, and finally a hired guide for the 3-day hike into the mountains. The guide's name, sourced from a local outfitter, was Ramon Santos, a grizzled ex-hunter who knew the trails but, per reviews, spoke little of Malilim. As she zipped the bag, a chill unrelated to the aircon prickled her skin. On the table lay the photo of the village, and for a moment she could have sworn the shadows between the houses shifted, as if something unseen had moved. She blinked, and it was gone. Imagination, fueled by too much coffee and folklore. The next morning, Elena met Marco at the magazine's office in Makati, a glass tower overlooking the polluted skyline. He handed her the contract, his handshake firm but lingering. "Be careful, Elena," he said, eyes searching hers. "That place, it's not like the others. The isolation gets to you. Dreams turn real." She forced a smile. "I'll send postcards, promise." But as she boarded the bus at Cubao Station, the folder in her lap, the city's bustle receding behind smoggy windows, a subtle unease settled in her gut. The road wound north, past sprawling suburbs giving way to emerald fields, then steeper hills where the air grew thinner. Billboards faded, replaced by roadside shrines, colorful Anito figures warding off evil. Elena pulled out her notebook, jotting ideas for shots, but her pen faltered on a line. What if the forest watches back? By afternoon, the bus rattled into Dingalan, a sleepy fishing town battered by typhoons. Salt air whipped her face as she stepped off, the Sierra Madre looming like jagged teeth against the horizon. Ramon waited by a battered tricycle, a stocky man in his 60s with weathered skin and eyes like polished stones. "Ms. Reyes?" His voice was gravelly, accented thickly. "For Malilim?" She nodded, extending a hand. He shook it briefly, avoiding her gaze.
2 days' walk. We leave at dawn. You sure about this?" "Positive," she replied, though his tone sent a ripple of doubt through her. As they shared a meal of adobo and rice at a carinderia, Ramon spoke sparingly. "The village, they don't like cameras much. Rituals are sacred, and the path, it's changed since last I went. Landslides, vines, thicker than before." Elena probed gently. "Heard stories. The festival, dangerous." He paused, fork midway to his mouth. "Stories are stories, but Malilim keeps its own. Last foreigner, a German he photographed too close. Came down with fever, raving about eyes in the dark. Died in Manila hospital. Official cause, malaria." The words hung in the humid air. Elena's appetite waned, but she pressed on. "Thanks for the heads up. I'll be respectful." Ramon grunted, finishing his plate. Respect might not be enough. That night in a fanless guest house room, Elena lay awake, the distant crash of waves a lullaby undercut by jungle choruses, cicadas, nightbirds, and something deeper, a low hum like wind through hollow bones. She scrolled her phone one last time, signal bars flickering. A final message to Marco. "All set. Heading in tomorrow. Wish me luck." His reply buzzed back. "Luck? Pray instead. Stay safe." She powered down, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. Outside, the mountains waited, their peaks veiled in mist that seemed to pulse with secrets. Malilim called. a siren song of ancient rites and hidden perils. Elena closed her eyes, excitement mingling with the first threads of trepidation. The journey had begun, and already the shadows felt longer,